I'd like to start with a story. It took place about 30 years ago in the Holy Land of Eretz Yisrael. A very wealthy businessman, very close-knit group of friends. And one particular day, he calls up his group and he says, guys, tonight is very special to me. Tonight I'm throwing a Seudat Hoda'ah. I want you guys to come over. Tonight, I'm going to tell you my story. Now his friends, at first they thought he was joking around. They know him for many years. Somebody makes Seudat Hoda'ah, it sounds like that something happened recently, but yet they knew nothing. So he really piqued their curiosity. And they all come out that night to his house and they see he puts out this lavishing spread. Sit around the table and they look at him new. What's Seudat Hoda'ah? We know you for years. And he says, I'll tell you, there's something about my past you don't know. And in truth, I've been making Seudat Hoda'ah for many years, but I never told you. But tonight I want to make it in public. Tonight I want you to hear my story. So he piqued their interest. Their curiosity was rolling. Go ahead, tell us, what's going on? He says, I grew up in the Lower East Side before I came to Israel. I wasn't religious. My mom and I, right after World War II, I lost my father. My mother and I, well, you know how difficult it was in those days to make a living. We weren't religious, no Shabbat, no yeshiva, nothing. And all I had was just my mom and the rent and a burden to help out some way. So he says, day after day, where do you think this kid was? Walking up and down the streets of the Lower East Side. You have a kid walking around with nobody's eyes on him. Sure enough, on the streets, he met the wrong people. He made friends, but the wrong friends. And little by little, boy, did his friends teach him how to make money. But the ways that they taught him how to make money was absolutely nowhere near what you would call clean. Everything illegal this group was into. And so was I, he says. I was making a lot of money. And boy, not only was I paying the rent, my mother was amazed. I would lie to her and tell her that I had some sort of dealings in the Upper East Side. But in truth, I was swindling back and forth. We were paying the rent. I was buying my mother clothes. I was on top of the world. This went on for a few years. At the age of 24, right when I started to say to myself, I don't really like this life anymore. I want to go back to the good. This is the last deal I'm going to do. Oh, but it was a big deal. This deal, once I close this one, I don't have to work. I'm going to be the youngest retired guy in the entire Lower East Side, 24 years old. Not bad. Not bad at all. I said to myself, I close this deal, I'm done. But little did I know that that very deal that I called my last, boy, was it my last. My friends and I were in the middle of an FBI sting operation. We had no idea. And the buyer, the guy that I was working with back and forth, he was an undercover agent. And I was the guy that went and approached him. And I was the guy that was making the sale. I was the front man. And sure enough, when I was about to close the deal, and I gave him the goods, and he handed me the attaché case. Just then, he opens up his jacket and shows me his badge. FBI, you're under arrest. And that was my last deal. At that moment, the world started to spin. I didn't know what happened to me. I was on top of the world, making all types of money. I felt so good about myself. I was taking care of my mother. But at the same time, I knew this was going to end. I just didn't think it was going to end like this. And now, boy, do they have a case against me. The FBI had everything on me from wiretaps to witnesses to pictures. They had an open and shut case against me. I had no shot. But I made money. So I went out and I hired a lawyer that only money can buy. I hired the best of the best. And he was going to represent me. And I come up to his posh office on the 77th floor, Midtown Manhattan. And I turn to him and I say, "So, how are you getting me off?" And he says to me, "Kid, it's not that simple. I'll be honest with you. I've been representing the worst of clients that New York City can produce, and I've never seen such an ironclad case against anybody. Boy, they got everything on you. You don't stand a chance." He says, I looked at my lawyer and I said, "Hey, whose side are you on? You're supposed to be representing me. I'm paying you top dollar. I paid him a retainer in 6 digits. For those years, an incredible amount of money. And here the guy's telling me I don't have a shot? Why am I hiring you? What do I need you for?" He says, "Kid, I'll tell you what. There's only one thing you have going for you. Your age. You're 24. Maybe I can touch a little chord, an emotional something by the judge. Maybe I can get the judge to say, hey, throw a 24-year-old in jail. He has his whole life ahead of him. Maybe I can hit an emotional chord. Evidence? They have everything. You don't stand a shot. But maybe I can do that for you." Okay, what do I have to lose? I have no other shot. So I hired him, he says. And he says, when I come down from his office, I'm walking through the streets of Manhattan. I come back to the Lower East Side, and I'm walking in a daze. I don't even know where I'm walking. I don't even look at the streets anymore. I was just walking. My brain was spinning. I was done. I was looking for a bridge to jump off of. My life is over. I gave up. He says, I stumbled into a bar. I sat down and I said, you know what? I might as well take a drink. And as I ordered up a drink, an old man walks in, and he sits down right next to me. And the old guy looks at me and he says, hey, you look like you could use somebody to talk to. And I turned to him and I said, old man, my problems are way bigger than anything that you could help or ever heard of. And the old man says, really? The old man pulls up his sleeve right to his elbow, and he shows me his numbers. He says, you want to talk about problems? I'm a survivor of Auschwitz. There's nothing you can tell me that I didn't live through 100 million times worse. So now, do you want to talk? He says, I looked at this guy and wow, those words hit me hard. So I said, yeah. And I start to pour out my heart. And I tell him, listen, the FBI, sting operation, wiretaps, witnesses, I'm done. I'm fried chicken, I'm done. My own lawyer told me I don't stand a shot. I mean, come on, I'm done. The old man says, uh-huh. He says, kid, you're not done. You know what you need? You need a miracle. He says, yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. I need a miracle. And that's why I'm done. He says, no. I know how to get you a miracle. You know how to get me a miracle? Okay, so tell me. He says, did you ever hear of the great tzaddik, a Rebbe by the name of the Skalena Rebbe, Zechet Tzaddik Libracha? He says, I looked at the guy and said, a Rebbe? You're sending me to a Rebbe? I never went to a yeshiva. I never kept Shabbat. We grew up not religious. After the war, actually, we ran away from everything. You're sending me to a Rebbe? He says, yeah. Believe me, the Rebbe's a tzaddik. And maybe his beracha can help. Go to the Rebbe. Here's his address. He says, I took the address and I went to the apartment of the Skalena Rebbe. I come into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe looks up with these magnificent blue eyes. He says, I felt like when he was looking at me, he was looking right through me. I literally felt his stare in the recesses of my soul. And I said, Rebbe, you got to help me. And the Rebbe looked up and said, I know why you're here. I said, Rabbi, You don't know why I'm here. I got to tell you my story. The Rebbe says, have a seat. I know why you're here. I know you're in trouble. And I know what they have on you. Oh, okay, Rebbe. Maybe it's true what they say about you. He says, I didn't even get a word out of my mouth. I turned to him, I said, Rebbe, if you know why I'm here, and you know what they have on me, could you get me out of this? Can you help me? And the Rebbe says, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe in Hashem? Because between me and you, the only one that could help you is Borei Olam. He put you in this. He wanted to wake you up. He wanted to grab you and pull you out so that you'll have a life to live that has some fulfillment, some purpose. Do you believe in Borei Olam? He says, Rabbi, I'll believe in anything you want me to believe in if you get me out of this. The Rebbe said to him, no, my friend, that's not going to work here. I want you to know if you believe in Borei Olam. He says, I told the Rebbe, I'll be honest with you, all my life I never thought about God. I was too busy making money. But the minute those handcuffs went around my wrists, suddenly everything that I thought was really important went up in smoke. That was the first time in my life that I screamed, God, help me! I realized that nobody else but him could help me at this point. The Rebbe said, oh, that's what I wanted to hear. Eno milvado. Nobody else can do a thing for you. No one else can help you. No one can give you anything. No one can take away anything from you. We're all puppets. It's all his will. He's the master. And he's running the show. Says the Rebbe, now I can help you, because now he's going to help you. The Rebbe leans back and he starts to shuckle, and he closes his eyes, and he looks back at me and he says to me, I give you a beracha that your lawyer will not show up to court. Excuse me, Rebbe. You mean that? You know how much I'm paying this guy? Can he at least show up to court? I mean, he was lousy. I just met him. He told me I had no chance. But at least from what I'm paying, do you know the retainer I gave this guy? Can he at least show up in court? The Rebbe starts giggling and laughing hysterically. And the Rebbe says, no. He says, I give you a beracha that your lawyer should not show up. And the Rebbe's bellied over laughing. And he says, I looked at the Rebbe and I said, that's it, I'm done. Not even my lawyer is going to show up. That's it, I'm finished. I left the Rebbe's house and I prepared for court. 2 weeks later, the big day, I come into the courtroom and he says, the pachad, the fear of Yom Hadin, sitting in a courtroom, looking at the judge and the jury and all the people around. And he said, I had nobody in my corner. I was there absolutely alone. I kept the whole thing away from my mother. I know it would break her heart. And I'm sitting there in the defendant's chair and I'm shaking. And just then, the judge comes in and everyone gets up. And he bangs the gavel down on it. Let the proceedings begin. Can the two counselors approach the bench? And then he looks at me and he says, defendant, where's your lawyer? And I said, hey, he's not here. You think that's funny? Do you know what type of charges are against you? You have no lawyer. You know what's going to happen to you. You're looking at life imprisonment. Where's your lawyer? You're making a mockery of this court? He said, no, Your Honor. I hired from the most prestigious firms. But the guy didn't show up. The judge says, listen to me. I'm going to call a 10-minute recess. I'm going to let you go to that side room, grab a phone, and call up the firm, find out what happened to your fancy lawyer, because if he's not here, you're finished. He goes out. He calls up the firm. He talks to the head of the firm. Hello? What's going on? Where's my lawyer? The head of the firm says, I'm so happy you called. Your lawyer got into an accident on the way to court. But don't worry, he's okay. He's okay? What about me? I'm not okay. They got everything against me. What are you guys going to do now? I need a lawyer. You need a lawyer? Okay, don't worry. We already sent somebody. There's somebody, a replacement, that's coming over right now. You sending me a replacement? Is he any good? Yeah, he's really good. And the guy hangs up. He comes out. 10 minutes later, the back doors of the courtroom opens. And in walks this young-looking, khaki little young kid in a suit, looking down at his nails with this cocky little smirk of a smile. And he walks in, flamboyant, right up to the desk, and he turns to me and he says, "Hey, I'm your lawyer." I looked at him and said, "You're my lawyer? How old are you?" "How old am I?" "I just graduated." "I'm 22. You're 22 years old? They sent me a 22-year-old to defend my life? Are you joking me? You're a kid." He said, "Don't worry. I got this. I got this." "What do you mean you got this? You're a 22-year-old kid. Tell me, how many cases did you win?" This is my first case." "This is your first case? I'm your first case. Do you know what they had? They have everything against me. They sent you a kid. This is your first case." He says, "I said to myself, I am done. That's it, finished. I might as well just walk out and stop wasting everybody's time. Bring the handcuffs." But the kid says, "Don't worry, I got this. I'm telling you. I'm telling you I got this." Okay? We sit down together, and the proceedings begin. They start with the opening statements. The prosecuting lawyer, polished prosecutor, gets up, and he's holding a manila envelope, a teak, about this thick. And he starts opening the Sefer HaZichronot, and he starts reading off, oh boy, this wiretap, and this, and that, and what didn't they have? They had everything on this guy possible. They had everything on me, he says. He says, once the prosecutor is finished, he turns to the jury, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is an open shut case. This guy is guilty, and we're looking for life imprisonment." Life imprisonment. They turn to my lawyer. He says, my lawyer gets up, he looks at his nails, his manicured nails. He walks up to the jury and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client is innocent. They have nothing conclusive on him at all." And he turns around and he sits down. I'm looking at the guy. Hello? Something a little bit more than that? Don't worry, I got this. Okay? The proceedings begin. The prosecutor gets up, he calls one witness. He calls another witness. He calls in the FBI. They play the wiretaps. Meanwhile, I'm looking at my lawyer. Do something. Say something. Object. Say, do something. My gosh, they're slaughtering me. Don't worry, they got nothing. I got this. It's all inconclusive. It's nothing. Okay? Finally, the judge turns to my lawyer and says, "Do you want to cross-examine the witness? Do you want to present anything to the court?" "No, Your Honor. Everything they have is inconclusive. My guy is innocent. Absolutely no reason to waste the time in the court." I'm looking at my guy. This is it. I'm done. I'm finished. And this went on throughout the entire case until finally they reached the closing and the final words. Prosecuting lawyer gets up and says, "Ladies and gentlemen from the jury, we presented to you an open and shut case with every possible evidence, and it's all pointing to one direction: guilty as charged, life imprisonment." My lawyer gets up and says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you heard, all the evidence that was presented was inconclusive." I said, "That's it, I'm done." Just as my lawyer is about to walk back to his chair, The judge turns to the prosecution and says, before we close this case, I have a few questions. And the judge starts to reenact and bring back all the steps of evidence that the prosecution put out. And he begins to literally chop it up into little pieces, one by one by one. The wiretaps weren't done legally. The witnesses had a bad angle. Every little bit of evidence, the judge chopped up to pieces. The judge turns to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and says, now you can go into deliberation, and we would like to know what's your verdict. 10 minutes later, they come out. The judge smiles when he looks at the verdict card, and he announces to the court, ladies and gentlemen, a unanimous account. We find the defendant innocent on all accounts. He says at that moment, he says, I couldn't believe my ears. I jumped up. I was jumping up and down like a little schoolboy. I grabbed my 22-year-old lawyer. I was hugging him. We were jumping up and down. I screamed, I can't believe it. We won. And at that moment, me and my lawyer, we ran out of the courtroom. I said to him, hey, let's get out of here quick before they change their mind. We run out the back doors and we run into the elevator together. And at that minute, I turn to my lawyer and I say to him, kid, listen to me. That was a miracle. I don't know how you won. It makes no sense. All I care is that my life is given back to me, but just tell me, how were you so confident? How did you win? And the kid looks back and my lawyer said to me, oh, the judge is my grandpa. Ladies, I came from Brooklyn with good news. The judge is your father. And that's the judge that we're all going to be standing in front of in about 10 days from now. In the most serious courtroom on the planet. On the most serious day of the year. The day that's going to literally decide the entire 364 to come after that. But don't worry. They have a tremendous ma'ala. Avinu Malkeinu, Abba. He's the judge. Now, does this mean that you sit back and do nothing? Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. I wish it did, but it doesn't. We have a tremendous teshuvah to look forward to. We have a lot of work ahead of us to really be able to convince Abba that we switched the path. We got away from the path of what we know was no good. And we started on the path that we know where we should be going. Yeah, you see, that is Rabbeinu Yonah's concept of teshuvah. Teshuvah is not about location. Teshuvah is about direction. It's not about the location of where you reached in your teshuvah. It's about, are you on the right path, in the right direction, that you'll get to perfecting yourself one day. If you switch path and you're on the right route, Hashem says, I'm Abba. I'll already give you the mercy and give you the credit as if you got there already. Just show me that you switched path and you're on the right way. Do you know who says this? Did you ever hear of the wonderful sefer, Tomer Devorah? What a sefer. There's a lot of Kabbalah in there, but in between, there's so much beautiful pshatim. The Tomer Devorah goes and explains the Yud Gimel Midot of mercy. Mi el kamocha, noseh avon, ve'over al pesha, lish'erit nahalato. Explains the Tomer Devorah. Mi el kamocha, who's like you, Hashem? Noseh avon, ve'over al pesha. You carry sin, you let it go. Lish'erit nahalato. What do those words mean? Lish'erit nahalato. This is one of the midot of mercy. We need to know about this midah because we need all the mercy we can get in 10 days from now. What does it mean, lish'erit nahalato? In Hebrew, the word she'er is another word for a relative. Someone who's a family member in a close way. You know what Hashem says? Hashem says, I want to tell you a secret. I'm your father. And when it comes to the great day of judgment, it would hurt me to chas v'shalom bring punishment to any Jew, because it hurts a parent to see a child suffer more than the child suffering itself. The parent hurts more than the child when the parent sees a child suffering. Says Borei Olam, how could I punish you? You're my kid. Lish'erit nahalato. You're my relative. You're my son. You're my daughter. How do I deliver punishment to you? If I would see you chas v'shalom hurting, it would hurt me more. I'm Abba. And because of that, says Borei Olam, here's an amazing secret of mercy when it comes to Yom Adin. Mi el kamocha. Who's like you, Hashem? Who kind of looks away from sin, who kind of carries the averot from year to year and lets them go. You know why? Because lish'erit nahalato. Because he acts to us like a relative, she'er, like a father, like a close one, a family member. How do family members act with each other? You know the word nepotism? When one family member kind of looks away and turns a cheek at the wrongdoing of another family member, Hashem says, I can do that too, because I'm the one who invented that. I'm the father of nepotism. I'm the one who showed the world that there's a concept that when you have someone close to you, a relative, a sibling, a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, suddenly, when you look at them in the eyeglasses of a relative, everything is relative. And then we can find mercy at any turn. Believe me, I'm a Rebbe. I teach at 12th grade. Sometimes there are kids in the class. Oh boy, do I want to give it to them. And then the mother comes down, and there's nothing I can tell her that she can't defend. Because when you have that love and that closeness, and it's your she'er, it's your kid, boy, is it a different set of eyeglasses. And a father or mother can't sometimes even see the bad on a child, no matter what's stacked against them. Wouldn't we love that walking into a courtroom? No matter what they have on us from the past year, if we could come in with she'erit nahalato, then our Father, He's the judge. He's going to look at us with some sort of an eye of mercy that He'll always see a way to get us off. Says Borei Olam, do you know how this works? Explains the Tomer Devorah, it depends on Klal Yisrael. Because Hashem tells us, I want you to emulate my characteristics. Mahu rahum afatarachum. Mahu hanun afatachun. Mahu she'erit nahalato. Just like he who shows love to relatives, so to you. If the Jewish people shows a love between each other, and there's a shalom, that we're able to look at another Jew as a relative, and not as a stranger, says Borei Olam, if you could be mitnaheg that way to others, you're giving me the opportunity to be mitnaheg that way with you on Yom Hadin. And that's something that we all want as a zichut to come into the great day. We're going to be doing teshuvah. We're going to be changing a path. We're going to be showing that what happened last year, we're on a new path, and we're in the direction to really achieve. But that's not enough. We need a zichut. Everybody is looking for zichuyot before the day of judgment. So we can put a few chips on the table and remind Borei Olam, please, pour on the mercy. Says the great Tomer Devorah, you know what number 4 on the mercy list is? A relative. Borei Olam will act as your relative if you could act to Klal Yisrael as a brother and a sister and a shalom between us. And it's with these words that the great Reb Chaim Vital, Zechet Tzadik L'Bracha, writes, and ladies, please, fasten your seatbelts for this one. I'm hoping that this one you can hear. Everybody here knows the pasuk, Parashat Mishpatim, Ki yipaleh mimcha davar. What does the word yipaleh mean? Milashon pele. Ma ze pele? Pele. is a wonder. It's something that absolutely makes no sense. Says Reb Chaim Vital, what is the Torah talking about? Ki palem imcha davar. If things happen that make no sense. You know what type of things? Ben dam ledam, ben din ledin, u ben nega lenega. Says Reb Chaim Vital, let me tell you, ki palem imcha davar. If you see things that happen that are absolutely crazy, it's a wonder, it makes no sense, there's no logical sense. Like what? Says Reb Chaim Vital, I'll tell you like what. Abba, Borei Olam, didn't you say She'erit Nahalato? Hashem, didn't you say that we're your relatives? Didn't you say Banim Atem Lashem Elokechem, that we are the children of Hashem? And if that's the case, we have a Pele, Ben Dam Ledam. How come so much Jewish blood was spilled over the last 2,000 years? Ben Din Ledin. Aren't we your relatives? How come there was so many gezerot, so many dinim, judgments, gezerot on the Jewish people in 2,000 years? Ubenega lenega. Why is there so many has v'shalom, lo aleinu v'lo alechem, so much mahala amongst the Jewish? Why? We're your relatives. She'erit nahalato, we're your kids. We're your daughters, we're your sons. Abba, what's with the dam? What's with the deen? What's with the nigaim? This is a pele. We're your relatives. Why is this happening to us? Says Reb Chaim Vital, as he marshals a midrash, he says, I want to up the ante on this one. Ki palem mimcha davar. You know what the midrash writes? The midrash says that the malachei hasharet, the wonderful angels in heaven, they come to Hashem and they ask Hashem a question. Ki palem mimcha davar. The angels in the olam ha'emet, and they say, we don't understand. This is a pele to us too. You know what's a pele to us, Hashem? Ben dam ledam. Your Torah writes that if a person goes and slaughters a chicken, and the blood comes out of the chicken and pours on the floor, there's a mitzvah in your Torah that's called Kisui Hadam. There's even a special beracha to it. You must cover up the blood of the chicken after it was slaughtered. Anybody that went to kaparot over the years, and you've seen after the shochet slaughters the chicken, the blood comes out into those upside down orange cones, and then they hand the man a certain amount of dust, dirt, to pour on top of the blood. Al pi Kabbalah, it's a big thing. And he makes a blessing, and this is the mitzvah of Kisui Hadam. Don't allow the blood to stay exposed. Cover it. Says the angels, your Torah says that when it comes to the blood of chickens, after it drops to the floor, you got to cover it. But Hashem, so much Jewish blood was spilled in years, and there was no one there to cover it. They're your kids. Isn't their blood at least as valuable than that of a chicken? Ben din ledin, says the Midrash in the name of the Malachim, writes from Chaim Vital. What about the judgments? You want to hear another halacha that your Torah writes? The Torah writes an amazing halacha. Oto ve'et beno lo yishchatu biyom echad. You're not allowed to slaughter, when it comes to animals, you're not allowed to slaughter the father or mother animal and the child on the same day. Animals can't be slaughtered, parents and children, on the same day. But how many Jews? How many Jews lost fathers, sons, mothers, daughters on the same day? Don't we have that value, at least of the animals' halachot? Ki pale, it's a pele, it doesn't make sense. L'she'erit nahalato, we're your kids. How come we don't at least get the halachot of the animal? Benega lenega. Ladies, I have, the Anhara Hashem blessed me with so many wonderful Talmidim these days in Brooklyn. I have one guy who's a doctor in Sloan Kettering. Lo aleinu v'lo alechem, you should never know from the place. You should never hear from the place. But as a rabbi in a community, every now and then, I have to go visit such a place. And I could walk into Sloan Kettering and I see my Talmud there running from room to room because he's one of the doctors there. And he comes running out and he says to me, Rebbe, I just don't get it. It's a pellet to me. Sloan Kettering Hospital caters to the entire United States. How many goyim? 240 million goyim? How many Jews? 15 million? We're a drop in the bucket when it comes to the numbers of the ratio between how many goyim they cater to how many Jews. And yet, when you walk through the hospital, 28% of the patients are Jewish. Ben nega lenega. Why are there so many negaim? Why so much mahala? Ask the angels to Hashem, your kids. L'she'erit nahalato. And Hashem says, the answer, yes, they're my kids. And I know you're thinking, what's going on? Ben dam l'dam. For heaven's sake, don't they at least have the dam of the chicken? Ben din l'din. Don't they at least have the halachot of an animal? Ben nega l'nega. What's going on in Sloan Kettering? What's going on with the mahalot? What's going on? And answers Borei Olam. Here's the answer. The next words of the pasuk. Divrei rivot bish'arecha. You know what a riv is in Hebrew? A fight. There's machloket in your streets. And as long as there's machloket in your streets, all bets are off. Divrei rivot bish'arecha. If you can't get along as relatives, how could I be mitnaheg to you like a relative as well? It's all up to you. Hashem tzilcha. Hashem is your shadow. The way you act is the way your shadow continues. If we can't find a certain love in the style of a relative, of a shalom between Jews, if Jews can't get along, says Borei Olam, how am I supposed to be your father the judge? You can't turn a cheek to another Jew. You can't find a certain love, a relative, a brother or a sister. How many families, the brother-in-laws went into business, they don't talk anymore. How many sister-in-laws over the size of a diamond doesn't talk anymore. How many mother-in-laws lost children who don't talk to their parents anymore. Hatunot, where half of the family show up. Why? Because of a pride, because of a fight, because of machloket. Says Borei Olam, as long as the machloket is going, how do you ask for mercy? You want mercy? How? I can only give it to you the way you give it. And if you act as a stranger to your family members, how can I act as a family member to you? It's one of you gimel midot. L'she'erit nahalato. One of the greatest zechut that you can bring to the table of judgment is shalom. There's nothing like it. And take a look. The moment we could find that shalom is the moment Borei Olam makes shalom with us. And suddenly we walk in with a zechut and a teshuvah that Abba says, don't worry, I got this. Don't worry. Ladies, maybe let me just give you a quick incentive. People like incentives. These days, especially in today's generation, to speak too pointed, too straight, even if it's truth, people get a little bit uncomfortable. It's 10 days to the Yom Hadin. There's a pachad. I'm trying to be as sweet in a certain way, so I want to give you this incentive. If you take a look in Tosafot and Shabbat, Daf Kuf Nun Vav, the Gemara says there, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, En Mazal LiYisrael. That's such an amazing statement. Are you joking? No mazal to the Jewish people? What do you mean? We're the luckiest people on earth. Take a look at us. We're affluent. We're mazal to the brim. The fact that we're still here, the fact that we still exist is probably the biggest mazal in history. Everyone's trying to take a piece of us. We're still here. That's the biggest mazal. And if that's the case, what do you mean, En mazal Yisrael? Says Rashi, right there, Kuf Nun Vav Amud Aleph. You know what it means? The Jewish people are not held to the mazal. They can go above the mazal, al yedeh tefillah. If you pray, you can break out of whatever mazal you were born with, and you can send your luck up through tefillot. We're not held to the mazal we were born with. Says Tosafot, a similar pshat. En mazal Yisrael. The Jewish people are not held to their mazal. Says Tosafot, al yedeh zechut gadol efshar lishanot. Through a major zichut, you can change your mazal, and you can become unbelievably successful, no matter what mazal you were born with. But you know what? Tosafot doesn't tell us what that zichut is. Comes the Chatam Sofer, and he writes, you know why Tosafot didn't tell you what the zichut is? Because he says, the zichut. And anytime they talk about the zichut, they mean the big one. What's the big one? Says Chatam Sofer. He's talking about the zechut of shalom. Hasam gevulech shalom. Helev hetim yasbeach. Hasam gevulech shalom. Everybody in life has a line that they don't cross. What's your line? Hasam gevulech. If you make your boundary, if you draw your line that you will not cross to be shalom, I will not cross the line of shalom. The moment I see a machloket brewing, that's where I draw the line. Nib it in the butt, put out the machloket, put out the fire. That's it. And they'll make fun of you the way they make fun of me. Let them. You be a purveyor of shalom, an advocate of shalom. And you know what your bounty is? Chelev chitim yasbiech. You'll be zochet to the fattest of the satiation of wheat, the best berachot, the greatest mazal. These are the words of David HaMelech. Why? Because you drew a line. This is a line I'm not going to cross. It's the line of shalom. And then the bounty comes. Then the beracha comes. Oh boy, then the mazal gets poured on. The biggest shalom, the biggest zechut. Therefore, ladies, go home tonight and take out your fancy phones and go through your contact list and find somebody on that list that you don't talk to anymore. And call them up tonight and say to them, life is too short. This is not about right and wrong. This is not about good and bad. This is about, it's time for us to get back together. And I know what you're thinking, Rabbi, you think it's that easy? Do you know how wrong they were? Yes, I do. I've been wronged in life many times. Matter of fact, when you become a rabbi of any community, you're actually asking for people to throw rocks at you. I know exactly what the concept means. And I am telling you, they could be wrong. And by you calling them up, you are not saying that they're right, but you are saying life is too short. Let's get back to at least being civil. Let's start going to each other's smachot again. Let our kids start playing together again. Let's call it off. Let's get back together because, and blame it on Yom Hadin. The great day is coming. Let this be a zechut for me and you. We could use a better year this year. You know what I went through. I know what you went through. We could really use an upturn in our mazal. And the rabbi said tonight that the biggest zechut that breaks people out of their mazal, especially when it's lousy, is the zechut of shalom. Life is too short. We're going to stop judging people just because of the way they appear in our eyes. And if someone wronged you, believe me, you know, it's like the guy that was crossing the street. But I'm right. He had the green light. He sees a car coming 90 miles an hour, and the car isn't stopping. What do you mean? But I'm right. I have the right of way. So he continues to cross. He sees the car is still not stopping. But what do you mean? He has a red. I have a green. I have the right of way. So he continues to walk. Sure enough, the car comes, goes through the blight, and hits him. And on his tombstone they wrote, he was right. And now he's dead right. Don't be dead right. Just be right. Go through your contact list tonight. Take out the phone tonight. You see this dinosaur? I picked this up in the Museum of Natural History. They had it on display. It's, ladies, brace yourselves. This is a flip phone. Now, please, I don't want to startle anybody. There's not even text on this phone. I talk to people for a living. I want to hear their voice. I want to feel that when they call me up with an issue, I can feel the cry in them. And I can cry with them. And sometimes when they call me up for smachot, I can laugh with them and give them a mabruk and a mazal tov in a way that they can feel it, instead of some dumb little text. And then sometimes we might even engage in something really old-fashioned, back from the days of Lincoln. It's called conversation. We actually talk together, and we actually laugh together, and we can feel one another. Not like those ridiculous things that go back and forth, that you have no idea the punctuation, you have no idea the tone of voice, you have no idea if the person's being serious, sarcastic, or just commenting. How many times did you get a text and it was so misleading, and you got so enraged, how dare she? And then you call her back and say, what in the world did you mean by X, Y, and Z? And she says, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant ABC. Oh. I guess I wrote it wrong. So for the last 3 hours when you were fuming and you were ready to burn down the world, what was it? It was a lack of being real. I walk around with a phone that has no text, no social media, no email, and I'm a free man. And the guys in my shul, we have a bond like nobody has. Because they know if they want to talk to the rabbi, you gotta call him. You gotta speak to him. There's no other way around this. Either knock on my door or call up my phone, but it's not happening any other way. And that's the way we keep shalom. And that's the way we stay away from machloket. And that's the way we stay away from so much of the mess that we got ourselves into today, feeling all good about our little toys. Hasam givulech shalom. Make your border, your line, shalom. And you know, bizochetu chelev chitim. The fattest of the best of the call somebody tonight. For the sake of Yom Hadin, for the coming year. And tell them, hey, life is too short. Let's get back on where we were. Bygones be bygones. It's not about right. It's not about wrong. Just let it be. You know what they say in the Ben Shushan family? Before the letter C is the letter B. Let her be. Just let her be. Just let it be. Time's too short. Get the zechut of shalom and bring it in. She'erit nahalato. And suddenly the judge, he's related to me. Hey, I got this. I did teshuvah, and I got the biggest zechut on Yom Hadin. The great Ramosha Feinstein, Zechet Tzadik Lebracha, he had two men sitting in his study in the Lower East Side, and they came to him for a din Torah. They had a disagreement in business. Mr. Rabbi Zlotowitz was sitting outside waiting to speak to Ramosha Feinstein. Rabbi Zlotowitz says that he was listening into the room, and he was listening to the court case, and one guy was screaming, you're wrong, and the other guy was screaming, you're wrong, and back and forth, till finally they put everything on the table, and Ramosha Feinstein paskined. You're right, and you're wrong. That's it. Boom. Okay? They both came to hear what the Gadol Hador was going to be posek. He gave his ruling. They're both happy. They get up, they're about to leave. Ramosha Feinstein jumps up. He grabs the hands of both of them. And he puts their hands together. And he says, before you leave this room, he turns to the guy who lost. And he tells him, I want you to hear you say to him, I am mochel you. And the guy looks at Rav Moshe, Rabbi, come on. What's the big deal? This wasn't personal. It was a court case. This happens all the time. We're businessmen. We fight over nickels. Come on, Rabbi, what's the big deal? No, we already knew we're coming in. Whatever the rabbi says, we're going to go with. This isn't personal. Rav Moshe says, I don't want to hear all these excuses. Say to him, I'm mochel you. I'm mochel you. Rav Moshe, I'm mochel you. I'm mochel you. Rav Moshe would not let them out of the room. The guy said every excuse under the sun. Rav Moshe said, I want to hear it. Till finally the guy fights and gives up, and he tells the guy, okay, I'm mochel you. Moshe says, wonderful. Now the two of you can leave. They walk out. Rabbi Zlotowitz comes in and says, Reb Moshe, what was that about? Oh, you held them for another 10 minutes just for one guy to say to the other guy, I'm mochel you? Like, come on, it was just a regular case. Reb Moshe says to Rabbi Zlotowitz, I see you don't know the Rabbeinu Bachya in Parashat Vayechi, when Yosef HaTzadik was approached by his brothers after Yaakov Avinu died. His brothers said, Yosef, our father passed away. We're coming to you now. Please forgive us for what we did. We sold you. And you know what Yosef said? Every excuse under the sun. Yosef said, Me Hashem yatsa hadavar. It's from God. This was Hashem's plan. Hashem wanted me to come down to Mitzrayim. You were just a conduit. Yosef said everything you can imagine, but he never said, I'm mochel you. Writes Rabbeinu Bachya, Lule, if only Yosef would have said to his brothers, I'm mochel, the Asara Harugei Malchut, the 10 of the greatest rabbis, years later would never have been murdered in place of the brothers of Yosef. If he would have only said, I forgive you. So go through those fancy phones tonight. Go through the contact list. Find somebody. Somebody that we don't speak to anymore. It might be a neighbor because they knocked over your garbage cans or they parked in your driveway. Find somebody, a family member, who for some odd reason, time has gone on and we didn't go to their smachot anymore and we missed their kids' weddings and they didn't come to our weddings for years, and end it. And come to Yom Adin with the great chip of Shalom. Let it go. You know the song. Let it go. Let it be. That's what Borei Olam wants. More than any zichut that you can come with, if you come with Shalom and a teshuvah, you got it. You got it. So let me just end with this. My brother, Rabbi Ari, he has a brother-in-law by the name of Avram David. Avram David, who lives in Jerusalem, was once approached by a shul that actually was in the area where he lives, but it was a shul of elderly men. Now, ladies, you can imagine on Simchat Torah, when you have a shul of elderly men, it's not exactly the most happening place. They pick up the Torah, they go around once, they pick up the Torah, they go around twice, they sing a little jingle, and in about 10 to 15 minutes, it's all over. Not exactly the Simchat Torah you might have been used to in your shul or in a yeshiva, for that matter. So one year, the gabbai of this elderly shul gives a call to Avram David. Now, Avram David is a very talented guy. He's a tour guide. He's a people's person. Everybody loves this guy. This is the guy that knows how to work a room. He's the guy that knows how to get everybody going. They said, listen, every year, Simchat Torah by us was dead. Please, Avram David, we'll even pay you money. Come and liven up the place. Bring a few young guys. Let Simchat Torah be like we remember when we were younger. Please, Avram David, please come up to us, Simchat Torah. Avram David said, hey, I like the idea. In yeshiva, there's another 1,000 like me. But in your shul, I think I could really make a difference. I'm going to come this year, and you can keep the money. I don't want a penny. I just want the zichut. I want the zichut. Simchat Torah comes, Avram David takes a few guys, they go down to the shul. That night, from that moment, they open the Hechal, they bring out the Torah, the dancing, the yelling, the jumping up and down. These old guys, they didn't know what hit them. They started grabbing them by the hands and pulling them off. They said, come on, let's go. And they started getting them to dance, and everyone was into it. And what a difference. What a success. What a brilliant idea they pulled off. They went one hakafa after the next, and each one got better and better until the final pinnacle of the night. Here it is, the last one. Su sha'arim rashechem. Su she'arim ra. And all of a sudden, Avram David already is in action. He gets a bunch of old men to put their hands up and make a little tunnel. As the Torah is being danced through the tunnel of old men. And they're loving it. And never did Simchat Torah take 2 hours. It was over every year in 15 minutes. But it's now 2 hours, and they never sat down once. And they're now bringing the last Sefer Torah to be put back into the Aron. And you know how they do it in the yeshivot. You know how they do it in the good shuls. The last Sefer Torah, that's the battle. There's always one guy that jumps in front of the Sefer Torah as they're about to put it in. And he stops the Sefer Torah and he pushes it back. And then the whole shul pushes it forward. And he pushes it back, trying to show, no, we don't want to give it back. We want to hold on to it. We love it. What a beautiful display of Ahavat Torah. So who is the guy? Avram David. He jumps in front of the Sefer Torah and he pushes it back, and the whole shul is pushing it forward, and he's pushing it back, and they're going back and forth till finally the Gabbai says, Avram David, enough. Enough. Let it in already. Come on, we got to close shop. We're already an hour and a half after our bedtime. We got to put it in. Come on. And Avram David, because he was so worked up and so into it that his eyes were closed, he kept going. He was pushing it back, and they were pushing it forward. He was pushing. Finally, the Gabbai got so upset, he walked up to Avram David, and he reaches back, and he slaps him in the face. And his glasses fly across the room. And the whole room stops. The whole room goes quiet. And Avram David's mouth is gaping open as his jaw drops. He could not believe what just happened to him. The guy that was saving the night. And he was smacked across the face by the Gabbai. Avram David now gets into his stance. He's about to rip something back to the Gabbai. And all of a sudden, an old man comes running from the back of the room. Wait! He runs up to Avram David. Stop! Please! Don't say anything back. Please! Don't you know the famous story of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, who told that lady by the wedding that if she doesn't answer, that will be the zechut for her to have children after 15 years of being childless? Please! Don't answer back! I have an only son that's very sick. Beg you, don't answer any back. Give me a blessing that my son will get better this year. And Avram David is, let it go. He closes